Welcome to Best Wellness Interviews. I get to interview my guest about their attitudes on wellness and the strategies that they use for their health and well-being. I'm Kristine Best and I'm your host. And today my guest is Martha Burich from Michigan in America. Welcome, Martha. Thank you for coming to my show.
And thank you, Kristine. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Now, I know you've got some interesting things that we're going to talk about, but first of all, I'd love you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Oh, love to. Let me tell you a little bit about my background. I taught child psychology at the college level for 10 years. I taught high school science and math and special education for 16 years. So I definitely have a background in those topics: behavior modification, behavior change, habits, breaking habits, things like that. And I've written a book called Yes, You Can Raise Happy, Responsible Children, which has been endorsed by Jack Canfield himself of Chicken Soup for the Soul fame. So I'm very excited about that. And my book will be released in July, August. I'm pretty sure by July this year. So I'm very excited about that. Looking forward to that. And also some other things that I do that we talked about earlier, Christine, are the fact that I go to the local jail. Now I've never been in jail, but I go to the local jail every Monday and I talk to the addicts and alcoholics. And we have a meeting, and usually lasts about an hour. And every Wednesday, I go to the treatment center and I talk to the alcoholics and addicts. It's during an AA meeting when I try to help them to see that they do have a future and that it doesn't have to include alcohol and drugs if that's been causing them problems, which of course it probably has been since they're in jail and usually because of it.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing that. Um,
I love it. I love it.
how do they respond?
Really well. And I've been very lucky, Christine, because they call them Martha Mondays. They tell me they really enjoy it when I come in because I always talk about I talk about mindset. I talk about how, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Hmm.
And no matter what happens, we can we can get through it. That of course, things happen to everybody. Nobody is immune from sadness, suffering, death, unhappiness, um, love lost. No
Very
one's
true.
immune. But
Yep.
the way we handle it, I had a girl. I've got to tell you this story, Christine. I had a young
Sure.
girl at the treatment center. She was about 32. She had a baby who was maybe 2 years old, maybe. And she left, and about 4 months later, I saw her again. I said, "What are you doing here again?" She said, "My mother died." And I said, "Oh, your father's wife died, your brother's mother died, your son's grandma died, but you had to use it as an excuse. And then you also made it impossible for any of them to be able to get comfort and help from you. You made it so that they all had to be stressed more because you went back to your addiction. Instead of thinking of others, you thought of yourself." Now, I was very direct, and normally, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to do that. Sometimes you have to do that because what she was doing, she was playing the pity me game. Oh, poor me, my mother died. Well, guess what? If in a perfect world, my mother dies before I do. My brother died, and my
In a
mother told me,
perfect world, and it isn't
yeah,
always like that because I know
exactly.
a
But when
number
my
of
brother
people
died,
whose children have died. Yeah.
yeah, at 35, my mother told me it was the worst pain. To lose a child was unimaginable. So yes, I understand that, but it is the way of the world. If things go the way they're supposed to, we are supposed to lose our parents before us. But then again, but what's the point? The point is that no matter what happens, we need to develop the strength of mind to say, you know what, I need to be the strong one here. People need help. I need to be the helper, not the one who needs the help. Now, sometimes we do need help, but then there are times also that we don't want to make it so that we make other people's lives more difficult because of our own mistaken thoughts, usually.
That's a very good way to put it because it is a selfish thing when people, go off and do things in their life that cause suffering to others. And people don't think about that aspect. They think about the
Right.
damage they're doing to themselves, maybe, but they don't think about what's happening to other people
Right.
who
How they
love
affect
them.
others.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what, because that's an aspect of wellness that people don't always talk about,
Mhm.
So I think that's really good that you've raised that point.
Well,
I like that.
I saw this the flourishing scale, this thing called the flourishing scale from
Mhm.
this business called Heroic. And he said, okay, these are the 8 things of if your life is flourishing. I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. Well, Kristine, how can you do that if you're always sick? If you're so overweight you can't get up? And it is so important to lead a purposeful and meaningful life. Oh, and
Absolutely.
I've got to tell you this story. Okay, have you ever heard of Diamond Dallas Page?
Diamond Dallas Page. No.
Dallas Page. He used to be a wrestler. My husband loved wrestling. God bless his soul. He passed on in 2008. Liver cancer, 3 weeks, diagnosis to death. But anyway, my husband loved wrestling. So we would watch wrestling when our son was a baby. Now, Anthony's 42 now. But we were watching wrestling, and Diamond Dallas Page was a wrestler. But anyway, but I digress. He has a business where he helps people lose weight, grossly overweight people. We're talking 400, 500 pounds and naturally, without surgery and without pills and things. Well, there was a man. He was terribly overweight, and one day, but he could still move around, get out of bed and move around. But he was, at least 300, 400 pounds overweight. Well, one morning his dog had to go out, and he could not get out of the bed. And it's this guy. I hope I don't tear up. He loved that dog. That dog was all he had. And he thought, I've got to help my dog. What am I going to do? He's all I have. I'm all he has. And so he rolled slowly but surely. He somehow crawled out of that bed and crawled to the door to let his dog out. And he said, I can't go on like this. So he called Diamond Dallas Page to help him. And he started him exercising in the bed. He starts people where they are. And that man lost weight. The next thing you know, he's sitting up, he's doing exercises in a chair. Then he's standing up, he's walking, he's running. He lost 300 something pounds. He got a new body. A dentist helped him with his teeth. He's an entirely different person. And now he leads a purposeful and meaningful life because he's an example to others that it doesn't matter how far down you've gone, how bad things are, you can always come back. You can always come back. And I hope that that's my message, that nothing's so far
Well,
gone.
there is a kind of saying that says it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it, how you deal
Exactly.
with it.
Exactly. And you would think that that was his worst moment with the dog, but it was his best. It
Well,
was the
that's
one.
exactly. Well, quite often when people get to their lowest, that's when
Yeah,
they really do their soul searching and do something about the situation.
right.
And it's sad that people have to go get that low, but the positives come out of that. In fact, I was talking to somebody yesterday about that exact same thing. They had a full breakdown, and it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to their childhood. And quite often, that's why people smoke, drink, and do all these things because they got issues from their past, and they're
Mm-hmm.
doing stuff. They're just doing stuff that takes them away from that to try and escape the thoughts of that, drowning it with alcohol or, hard partying and stuff like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
running from something and they don't know what it is. But instead of going getting treatment or therapy or, going to see a coach, they just go on this. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They have bad thoughts about themselves, and so that's how they end up heading, down that
Exactly.
path.
Yes. Right. Right.
They're
I
not
read.
happy with themselves or something. They're unhappy with themselves. They're unhappy with their life. So they just go, yeah, whatever there is, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, or this is what I'd love to be doing, but I can't do that. And that's what stops people. And it is their mindset, as we started this conversation with mindset. And that this is the most powerful or limiting thing. And this is
Hmm.
the thing you've got to master. It's yourself. Yourself,
Definitely.
it's within you. And it's all about
Definitely.
choice, the choices you make.
Right. Right. And Jack Canfield told us years ago, I was at a seminar of his, we're going back 30 years. He said, if a negative thought comes in your mind, you just say, cancel, cancel, and put in a positive thought. And that has
Well,
helped me. Cancel, cancel, and
see,
replace it with a
people,
positive.
yeah, people tend to think on the problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the problem gets bigger. Mountains are
Ah.
made out of molehills, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you
Mm-hmm.
focus on a solution, that's a different story. The solution becomes, or solutions, or the search for the solution becomes the bigger thing, and the problem actually shrinks.
Oh, yes, very good. And yes, and that makes me think of something Wayne Dyer said years ago. He said you can't get an answer from the same mind that is thinking of the problem all the time.
That's right. You've got to change the way you
And that's
think.
exactly what you said. You have to
That's
get out of the problem and into the solution.
exactly.
Wow.
And when
All right.
when you
So
change when you change your mindset that way, it puts a positive slant on the matter.
if you let it, one time my car broke down during COVID. It was the hottest day of the year. Oh, Christine, and I'm on the road, and suddenly it's just not working. It won't move. So luckily, it coasted into this empty parking lot. And I was so thankful right there. I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so lucky that this happened, and I have this parking lot to put my car in. I'm safe, the car's safe." And it was an empty restaurant that had a patio with chairs. So, and it was like 100 degrees out that day, and the sun was burning. It was 2 in the afternoon, and so I had a book in my car. I got out. I called the tow truck. They said they'd be there in 2 hours. Well, I had the book, and I thought, well, you know what? You sit here and enjoy this weather, Martha, and don't you complain about a thing. You be thankful. You thank God that nothing happened and that you're safe. And so then
That's
when
right.
I got the car to the repair, I was in a really good mood when I was, talking to the guy, and he goes, "Wow, you're in an awfully good mood for your car breaking down." I said, "Well, who knows what could have happened? That
Well,
that
that's
probably saved
exactly
me from something worse."
exactly. You got to look at
Exactly.
the positives in every situation. There's always
Yeah.
something good happening in your life. And
Mhm.
okay, look, life is about ups and downs, and there are things you have to go through and things that happen that you don't plan for, that you can't plan for. But
Mhm.
you've got to look at, right, this is just a phase. I can
Mhm.
get through this, and you look to the solution of how you're going to do it. And if you've got a
Mhm.
plan of what to do, you can do something about it, and then it's not as bad as you first think.
Exactly.
I mean, everybody's the same. Everybody has negative thoughts, but if your negative thoughts overcome you, and you think about
Mhm.
negative thoughts every day, then that's who you become,
Mhm.
Mr. or Mrs.
Mhm.
Negative. So it's natural to have a negative thought because something happens and it's a roadblock, and you're going, what am I going to do about this? This is
Mhm.
this is this is annoying, or it's upsetting, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
what can I do to overcome it? And that's the thing you got to ask yourself to try and break that negative thought cycle.
Right. Right.
It's
What
normal
small
to
thing
have
can I
negative
do?
thoughts.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because your
What
brains
small
go, it wants you to think about this problem
Mhm.
because you've got to deal with it.
Right. What
But
small
you
thing
don't
can I
deal
do?
with it by letting it fester in there, and you're not doing anything to fix it. You're just thinking about the problem. It festers
Makes
and
it
it gets
worse.
worse and worse. That's
It's
right. Yeah.
bigger and
So
bigger. Yeah.
just got to
Yeah.
change your focus to a
Right.
positive.
And start thinking of the little things you can do. So if you want to start getting in better health, then okay, if, walk to the mailbox, or walk 50 steps. When I first started walking, I could maybe go a tenth of a mile. Well, I would just go a little further all the time, and the next thing you know, I was doing miles and miles. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. You do
One
one sit
step.
up. You do one sit up. You do one stretch. You take the dog out for 5 minutes. You got to
Mhm.
start somewhere. Always start somewhere.
That's exactly right. It's the
Yeah,
first
and
step of the journey that's
maybe,
the
yeah,
hardest.
if you got a sink full of dishes, well, wash one. Wash one. Because usually, if you wash one, you'd be like, all right, I'm standing here anyway. I'll do,
I can
I'll do
finish
it.
it now. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, always get started. Always get started because you're right. If we let these things fester and then we can't help others. And you know what we want to be, I lead a purposeful and meaningful life. Meaning means we are valuable to others. We others look to us and for things. It doesn't mean for physical things. Others look to us for encouragement, for help, for a smile. You know, I used to be so shy and so felt so inferior. If somebody would smile at me at the grocery store, I'm about to cry. It would make my day because I was so shy, and it was a big deal. I smile at everybody because I know how much it meant to me. You
Mm.
don't know where somebody's coming. You have no idea. You know,
If
I used
you
to go to the grocery store in a full face of makeup with my hair done and a dress on. I had to look perfect. You know, I've kind of grown out of that, luckily, because that caused a lot of stress. But you know what? I see a lot of people are still there. It's part of the grow. It's part of growing, and you start realizing, oh, wait a minute. Maybe people like me even if I'm not perfect. You know.
yeah, when you smile, the world will smile back.
Yes, yes,
It's
and if they
infectious.
don't, just yeah, it's exactly. Or I could tell you another story, if you'd like to hear it. I got rejected. Would you like to hear how I
I'd like
dealt
to
with
hear that.
rejection?
Yeah, yeah. Tell me
I
about
went
that
to
one.
this mall. Okay, we have a fancy mall out here. It's really nice. And I go to the mall, and I'm single, and I see this handsome older gentleman sitting outside Nordstrom, and he's reading the paper. So I go in Nordstrom. An hour later, I come out, and he's still sitting there reading the paper, and he's still alone. I thought, well, goodness, you know, um, maybe he might be a date for me. So I went up to him and I said, hello, are you waiting for your wife or girlfriend? Because, you find that out right away.
Yeah,
And
right.
he looked at me funny. He goes, no. I said, well, good. I said, are you here alone? He goes, yes. I said, great. Why don't I sit down and we'll have a conversation? I guess
Well,
I'm forward.
for for a shy girl, that was pretty forward.
I know, but you know what? You got to strike while the iron's hot. He was a handsome man. Anyway, so he looked at me and he goes, no, I come to the mall to be alone.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, he really kind of blasted me. And I looked at him and I said, oh, my bad. Have a nice day. And I smiled real big and I just walked off. And I said, okay, Martha, next.
Yeah, that's
You
yeah.
know, I'm,
You
it
can't
wasn't
help some
about,
people.
I have no
Yeah,
idea. I have no idea. I encroached on his space. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
that's
I disturbed
true.
him. He wasn't interested. But guess what?
Mm,
I did it, didn't I? I
you
did it.
did.
Overcame my fear. Doesn't matter
Very
how it
good.
works out. Doesn't matter how a salesman. Doesn't matter if they say no or yes. In fact, some people, the way they do sales is they go, I'm looking for 10 no's. So every time I get a no, I get to chalk it up and say, great, I'm doing my job. So yeah, he was a no, right?
Yeah. And it's well, that's another concept. Failure. People think I've failed, but it's
It's
not
not. It
about
wasn't failure.
failure.
No, I
It's
did it.
about learning. Some people don't need the interaction or don't want it at that moment.
Yeah.
However, you don't know what's going on in his life, and you may have
No,
left him with a thought that, oh, I was a bit hard on her, and it would have been nice to have a conversation. So you just never know how you've
you don't
affected it,
know.
right?
And
So it doesn't really matter. You didn't do anything bad.
right. Right. And Christine, he could have been the love of my life. He wasn't. But you don't know. You know what? I did not let the opportunity pass. That was the most important thing. This was an
Well,
opportunity, and I
you did
took
it
it.
for yourself. You did it. You did it. And it was a nice gesture, really. And rejection, and we don't need to take that on board as a I'm no good
Right.
kind of thing. It's just
Exactly.
that,
Exactly.
oh well, I wonder if there's anybody else I can have a conversation with.
Right.
That's a
Right.
much
So
better
it
way
didn't
to
get
handle
worse. It didn't get worse. I didn't have
it.
anybody to talk to before. I didn't have anybody to talk to later. It did not get
Mm.
worse. It stayed.
No,
But
yeah.
you know what? It got better because I exercised my confidence muscle. I exercised my courage.
You
So in
empowered
actuality,
yourself.
there you go.
You
Exactly.
empowered yourself. And that's what people don't do. They kind of give up. This
Mm,
mindset thing is very, very important. And when I run my seminars on wellness, that's the thing I start with. That's the first topic is mindset, because that's going to mean the difference between someone succeeding in losing weight or getting fit or not,
right,
right?
right,
So
right.
it's not about, nutrition and exercise. It's first of all about the mind. And that's the same with any
Well,
project, really.
I lost 50 pounds to go on a cruise a couple of years ago. And I signed up for this cruise. There's another story. This was with a woman I'd never met. We met online, and her husband had died. She had this ticket, and at good prices, and she didn't have anybody to go with. I said, okay, well, hey, at that price, I'm going to go. And it was really lovely. But I thought, you know what, you're not getting on that boat. You're going to lose 50 pounds before you get on that boat. So I put a dress up that I wanted to wear, and I went to the gym and I worked out every day. And I'll tell you, before that, I was starting to get fat. I'm going to use the word. And my mobility was bad. My flexibility was bad. I was starting to get in that mindset, oh, you're old. Just let it all go. But luckily, that cruise stopped those kind of thoughts, got me going. And now I either go to the gym or walk the dogs or something every day. But anyway, I lost the weight for that cruise. And then after the cruise, I continued on exercising and working out. Because why? Because I feel so great.
Yep. Actually, exercise helps to generate the feel-good hormones, serotonin and oxytocin and so on.
Mm.
So, if you exercise regularly, your body will actually store the glycogen in the muscles,
Mm.
ready for when you wake up, and it kind of motivates you. Because it's there ready to go. It wants to go, wants to get
Yeah.
going. It
Yeah.
prepares you. And so you wake up and you go, oh, I feel good. I've got energy. And off you go. So you got
Right.
to, you can train your body to do that. And when you come back from that exercise, the feel good hormones say,
Mm-hmm.
that was great.
Mm-hmm.
And so that
Mm-hmm.
generates the cycle of, yeah, I got to go do some movement. It's not about exercise
Yeah.
per se, it's about moving your body. So it could
Mm-hmm.
be dancing and it could be gardening, it could be walking, or it could be swimming. It doesn't matter what it is. It's as long as you're moving your body, because your body was meant to move just as
Mm-hmm.
much as it needs air, water, and food, it needs movement. And
Mm-hmm.
by
Well,
moving, you're actually helping your circulation and all the
right.
processes that go on inside.
Right. Yes. Yes. And the body's got to circulate. Got to circulate. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
I practically jump out of bed. I wake up in the morning. I'm in a good mood. I always think about all the things I have to be grateful for, my health, my family's health, how blessed I am and the people I know and the opportunities I have. Yes, I'm very blessed.
That's awesome. And you're, do you mind if we mention your age?
I'm 70.
Yeah, me too. And you know what? We've got similar attitudes to, walking and getting out and doing
Mm-hmm.
things and life
Mm-hmm.
be in it kind of thing. And I want to actually talk about, because it's something you mentioned to me before we started this interview. And you said that you used to drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to get into that topic because, okay, we see you now and we hear what you're doing now, and you're full of energy and you're doing all the right things. But that wasn't how it was in the beginning. And people are going through this stuff and they're thinking, oh, how am I ever going to get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know, it's like Groundhog Day. How do I get out of this Groundhog
Mm-hmm.
Day?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to talk about a little what you did back then and how much you drank and what was going through your head and what changed that. You want to let us
Yeah,
know
sure.
about that?
Most of my life, I was a weekend drinker. I always was a heavy drinker, and I always was an alcoholic. I could never have just one drink. But I managed to keep it pretty much to the weekends because I had jobs I loved, and I didn't want to go to work, impaired in any way. So I would just wait till Friday to drink. But then I retired, and then I had no reason to not drink. And the next thing you know, I was drinking every day. And that just wasn't sitting. And then I was gaining weight, and then I was feeling bad about myself. And I thought, something's got to change here. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So I went to AA, and I and I haven't looked back. I haven't had a drink in 6 years. I rarely even think about it. And I just did what they told me from the beginning. And you know what they tell you? They said, just live today. Why don't you just do what needs to be done today? We're going to deal with your past, but if you being a decent human being today is going to help you deal with whatever you did in the past when you were drinking or whatever, and you being a decent person today is going to help make your future better. It's going to plant the seeds for that beautiful tree to grow to make your future better. But don't worry about the future. Don't worry about the past. Do what's got to be done today. And in the beginning, they tell you, you know what? All you got to worry about is don't drink. Just don't drink. If you haven't had a drink today, you're successful. Now, if you're a drug addict, the same thing with drugs. Now, but Kristine, we have to say, if you are a heavy daily drinker, you can't just quit cold turkey. See, I hadn't been drinking every day for long enough, for too long that it would affect me. But some people have been drinking every day for so long that if they just quit cold turkey, they could die. They could.
Yeah.
So if you're in that situation, you need to call a hospital or a treatment center and talk to them before you try to just quit cold turkey. That's
Yeah,
very
right.
important. But I was very fortunate in that I could just put it down and I was done, and that was it. And then from the very beginning, I started trying to help other people and do other things. And I was about 4 years sober. And one day I was at a meeting and I thought, I need to do more. I need to do more. And I thought, I know, they need people in the jail to help the addicts that go to the jail meetings, because it's hard to get into the jail if you're not if you haven't done something wrong. So because you have to go through a process and everything.
Yeah.
So not everybody who wants to help people in prison can, because they have a record and they can't. But I don't have a record. I never got in trouble like that. So I'm able to go every Monday, and I do it totally volunteer. The ladies call it Martha Mondays. They tell me they really enjoy it. In fact, I've gotten written testimonials from the ladies. It's been very nice. And you get different people all the time, but it's a wonderful experience. And you know what else, Kristine, is it reminds me every day. I had a woman, I'll tell you two stories. I had a woman, she's been coming to jail since she was 17, and she was 33 when she was in jail. She looked at me one day during a meeting. She said, I've been coming to this jail since I was 17, in and out. I've got children. She goes, I think I'm tired. I think I'm tired of coming to jail. I think I'm ready to stop doing what I've been doing and change. And then another woman one day, sometimes, as you said, our backgrounds, people have different backgrounds, and there's a lot of suffering in some people's backgrounds. And I don't know what happened with this woman, but she said to me, why, I'm going to why would God forgive me if he won't forgive the devil? And I thought, okay, we've got some serious issues here. One could be the ego, but I
Yeah.
said, you know what, dear? I don't know. I'll look it up. So I went home and I looked it up on the internet, and I brought her the papers. The following week, she showed up again. The devil never asked for forgiveness. But also, see, a lot of people, they use the things that they've done as excuses to relapse. Oh, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows, oh my God, I've done such terrible things.
Victim mentality.
There you go. Exactly. And they play that for all it's worth. And then they relapse. They can't get sober. They can't stay sober. They'll be sober a month, go back to drinking, get so 2 weeks, go back to drinking, 4 months. You know why? Because they don't deal with that. They don't deal with their victim. They get too much reinforcement for being a victim.
Well, they're making excuses for
Yeah.
themselves and their behavior, and they're not
Yeah.
actually dealing with the crux of the matter.
Right. But we have to love them through it, do our best for them, but also,
Yeah.
what do you do? Confront with love. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times, they'll tell you, they'll say, well, how's that working out for you? You know, how's that constantly getting in trouble with the law, and the police all know your name, and you lost your driver's license, and your family doesn't want to talk to you. How's that working out for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's bring you back to reality and
Yeah, nobody
face
wants to talk to you.
face
Yeah,
the real situation and look
yeah,
at what you're doing. Is that what you really want?
right. Oh, we had a man. He was sober 9 months, and they were going to go to a wedding. And his wife and his children. His children said, "Dad, are you sure?" Because he used to really make a mess of things at weddings and really make a fool. And his whole family said, Dad, are you sure you want to go to this? This could trigger you, blah, blah, blah. Well, he came to a meeting and he was very upset. When's my family going to trust me? I haven't had a drink in 9 months. Well, how many years were you drinking? What kind of stuff did you do? Sometimes it takes years to make up, but you think 3 weeks, oh, I haven't had a drink in 3 weeks. I haven't had a drink in 9 months. Well, obviously his family needed more than 9 months to be
Mm.
able to trust and believe in him.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough because obviously he'd put his whole family through a lot of pain and
Yeah,
suffering,
right.
and they didn't want to go through it again.
Exactly. Exactly. But he grew up, and that's another good thing. When you go to AA meetings, that's what the steps are for. They help you to grow up because we all stop growing pretty much the age we start drinking. We're drinking down all those feelings. We're drinking down the social skills we were supposed to learn.
That's right. Alcohol actually changes the chemical balance in your brain. I mean, it
Mm,
does a whole lot of other horrible things to your
mm,
body and your blood sugar and triglycerides and all sorts of stuff.
mm.
So and your kidneys and your liver and,
Yeah.
you know, um, yeah, all of those things. And people don't realize the the damage they're doing to themselves
Mhm,
as well as others. But
mhm,
they don't realize that once you start drinking alcohol, it changes the way you think. It
mm.
changes the whole chemical balance in your brain. And so you're not making the right, or the decisions you should be making. You're making wrong decisions because you're
Mhm.
not as in control of your
Right.
thoughts
That's right.
anymore.
That's right. Exactly. And one woman, a doctor took her up to the wet brain ward in the hospital, and all the people there had wet brain from alcohol. And they were all sitting around, basically, they all wear diapers, sit around watching cartoons, and they're they're vegetables. They're vegetables. Their minds are gone. That's what alcohol does. And a lot of these people were distinguished professors,
Yeah.
teachers, all
There
because of
was
the
a guy,
alcohol.
there's a guy that I knew, and he was drinking a lot of alcohol. I spoke to him. He used to go to our church,
Hmm.
but he kept coming and smelling of alcohol. And so the pastor said to this fellow, "Listen, you cannot come when
Hmm.
you are clearly drunk and you've
Right.
been drinking, smelling of alcohol. You're imposing that on all the people here. You clean up your act and you come back." And so he would for a little while, and then he'd go back to drinking with these people, that he used to drink with, and he wouldn't change.
Mm,
And let's say about 10, 15 years down the track, he didn't come back to church. He just kept drinking, and he also got into smoking dope,
wow. Wow.
marijuana as well. So he was just constantly stoned or drunk or something. And
Mhm.
I bumped into him at a supermarket, and I couldn't recognize him. I mean, I
Mm,
recognized him, but
yeah.
his eyes were bloodshot. His face was red and blotchy.
Mm,
Obviously he'd been drinking. He smelt of alcohol.
mm,
It smelt terrible. He looked terrible. And he recognized me and said, "Hello, Kristine." And I went, "Oh, Mick."
wow.
I said, "You've been drinking." I said, your eyes are bloodshot. Your face is all red. You've been drinking, haven't you?" And he goes, "Yes." And he knew I'd tried to help him, right? So he knew I was always straight with him. And
Mm,
I was straight with him this day. And I just said, "You need to, wake up to yourself." I said, "Because I don't like seeing you like this. It grieves my spirit to see you like that, that you've done this to yourself. You look terrible." And anyway, he went into the shop and I went and did my shopping. And then he was, oh, I went to a counter to pay, and he was
mhm.
the person in front of me. And he turned around and I said, "Well, I think God's trying to tell you something, he's reminding you that this
Mhm.
that this is not a good thing for you to be doing." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, I know, you're right." But he couldn't give up. And you know what? He's got Alzheimer's now. He's hospitalized. He can hardly walk.
Mm,
Uh, he has just totally ruined his life. And he's 10 years or more younger than me.
Oh my goodness, I mean, that's young, Christine. I'm sorry, but we're young. Our age,
Well, I don't think of
70's the new
age.
50.
We,
I think
we
70's the new 50.
people think
We both look fabulous. We don't look well,
we don't
whatever.
look we probably don't look 70 because we
No,
don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't do late night partying, and we look
right?
after ourselves, we exercise, and we're into life, contributing
Yeah.
to life and having a meaningful life, as you said in the beginning. That is so important. A lot of people, when they retire, you know, in their 60s, they
Mhm.
retire and they sit on the lounge watching TV and they just wither away,
Right,
and
right.
and they have nothing. They feel like, oh, the kids are gone. I finished work. I've got no purpose in life. And that,
Mhm.
I think it was Einstein. He said, if you want a happy life, tie it to a goal.
That's
You've got to
right.
get some kind of goal in your life. Set
Exactly.
yourself a goal. The bucket
Exactly.
list. Do the bucket list
Mhm.
thing,
Mhm.
or go and volunteer for
Mhm.
some charity or something like
That's
that,
right. That's right.
or start a
That's
new
right.
business. What the heck, that
Exactly.
it doesn't
Exactly.
matter what you do, as long as it's going to get you out of bed
Do
in the morning
something.
and you're looking
Right.
forward to doing something. And if you're helping other people, then that
Mhm.
actually is awesome when you see the smile on someone's face that you've helped. It
Mhm. Mhm.
obviously you've helped that person, they're happy, but it makes you
Mhm.
happy as well. And that's all part of
Right.
this wellness thing. And people don't realize we have this spiritual side to us, we have a social side, we have a
Mm.
giving side where belonging somewhere is not just being there and being, I don't know, it's the center of attraction or something like that, but
Mhm.
it's about give and
Mhm.
take. And
Mhm.
that's what a relationship is with everybody. You
Mhm.
can help people when they need it, they can help you when you need it,
Mhm.
and that's a community. That's what a community does.
Right. And there are so many lonely people. If you're lonely, go to a nursing home. Ask them who never gets a visitor, who needs somebody to talk to, or go to the dog shelter, go to the animal shelter. Do the dogs need to be walked? You make
That's right.
yourself useful. I stopped watching television in 2007 because I realized that it had nothing for me. And I'm very particular about what I let into my mind. And I'm really concerned, you know, I listen to music, I'll listen to some radio, but it seems that every ad is about medicine or some kind of disease. And I'm very cognizant of that. And they're trying to convince people to, oh, well, ask your doctor about this pill and that pill. I had a girl come to
Yeah.
me from the jail. She said, I gained weight at the jail. When I get out, I'm going to take that Ozempic. I said, oh, honey,
Oh no,
no,
don't do that.
no, no, stop looking outside yourself. You need to look within. That's not going to help you. It's not even a quick fix. It's going to ruin your health.
Yep,
But you see, people
absolutely.
always look outside themselves, but we have to be very careful about these messages that we're letting in.
I agree with you that the world is geared for drugs and
Mm-hmm.
invasive
That's right.
treatments.
That's right.
And that is
Yeah.
not what people need. They need to make the right choices to start with. They need to go and speak to the people that are knowledgeable on the subject. So
Mm-hmm.
if it's fitness or if it's wellness, then
Mm-hmm.
or nutrition, you need to see people who have that knowledge. Or if
Right.
they're stuck, drinking alcohol, they need to see people like you who can counsel them and guide them to a better life. And so they
Mm-hmm.
need to go to, um, you know, preventative people, preventative medicine and
Mm-hmm.
preventative
Mm-hmm.
treatments and therapies. Because when people go to the doctor, they look at the symptom and they treat the symptom,
Exactly. Exactly.
right? Instead of looking at the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I pride myself on in what I do. And there are a lot of other health, they call themselves holistic kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coaches or wellness coaches, those sorts of things. And so, they're about prevention, and prevention is better than cure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
if people start preventing themselves going downhill by making the right choices and getting the right information and setting up the right behaviors and habits, and getting that knowledge, they can live a better life. But people invariably take a lot of things for granted, I guess. They don't
Mm-hmm.
actually stop and think, what am I doing? How can I change this? Let me go and see somebody for help.
Mm-hmm.
You have to admit to yourself you've got an issue, and then you need somebody to talk to help you
That's right.
through it.
That's right. Somebody who, a good example, somebody who does what you want to be doing. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I'm a coach. I coach people, um, and I give them strategies for because I'm also not just a sports scientist. I've also done occupational health and safety and NLP. I'm a master practitioner and coach in
Oh,
NLP. So I can
wow.
help with the physical and the
Great.
physiological and
Yeah.
the psychological side. So, you, it's really, really important to just stop yourself, like
Mhm.
and look in and pause. And I was talking with another lady, I interviewed her on my podcast, and she said it's not always about the doing and doing and doing. Sometimes you
Mhm.
just got to stop. You just got to stop and be still.
Yes.
And in that time, you can
Yes.
come back to reality. You can put things into perspective, and this world is geared to everybody going really fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we just need to get off the fast train, smell the
Mm-hmm.
roses,
Mm-hmm.
sit in the
That's right.
park, watch the leaves fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
Exactly.
and in those quiet times, that's when you can actually start to connect the dots and make those better
Mm-hmm.
choices.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree
That
with
was a
that? What
reason. Yeah, oh
when
yeah, that's the
you
reason I stopped watching TV because that noise, most homes, that noise is always in the background. Well, that's
Yeah,
somebody else's what they want, trying to put into my mind to make it what I want. So
yeah.
now I like the silence.
Yeah. And if you have a quieter spirit, you can hear those messages like you were talking
That's right.
about, all these messages coming at you through the radio and wherever
Mm-hmm.
you are. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
signboards if you're in the city,
Mm-hmm.
and they're flashing all these messages with these sugary drinks and fast food and
Yes. Oh,
you know, and
yeah,
ta
those energy drinks and all that.
and taking painkillers or whatever the ads might be. There's all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of ads for drugs, different types of
Mm-hmm.
drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and things for colds and flu. What happened to the old remedies of boiling, you boil up some water, you
Yeah.
put a towel over your head and you breathe the
Right.
steam. What happened to
Exactly.
those sort of natural remedies? That is the best way to get rid of those things. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need the drugs. And
Mm-hmm.
people take drugs to dry up their runny nose,
Oh,
but the runny nose is naturally how it gets
it's
rid of the bug. If you
exactly.
dry it
Yeah.
up, you make yourself susceptible to a secondary infection. And of course, that's
Right.
what happens to people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
it,
they have
it,
to take more drugs.
we're getting,
Yeah.
it, yeah, the way the world is geared, it's making people more and more unwell, actually, the way
Mm-hmm.
I see
That's
it.
right. That's right. Yeah. I haven't even had an aspirin. I think in 2 years. I
Don't
think,
take
and
anything.
the aspirin when I would take was a baby aspirin, but um, yeah, my mother was very much. We don't take that stuff. These people that were taking that Prilosec for their upset stomach and all. Well, that turned out to be even worse on their intestines. And anytime you take something, it
Has
all
a side
medicine
effect.
has side effects, and
Yeah,
usually the
they
side
all do.
effect is a whole lot worse than the problem.
Some of those preparations make your gut bleed, and others can
Mm-hmm.
cause you to get ulcers. Others
Mm-hmm. That's
interrupt
right.
the uptake of vitamins and minerals in your body, so they can cause other things. And yeah, and quite often when you take a drug, you've got to take another drug to counteract the side
Exactly.
effects of it. So
I
if you
I
can
know a
avoid
woman
taking them,
years
you're not better
ago.
off.
She got that gastric bypass because she was overweight, right? Well, you know what they didn't tell her is that because they cut out some of her stomach, uh, the nutrients were not being absorbed into her system. So then she got necrosis of the bone, of
Oh
the
yeah.
bone.
Wow.
But see, this is all they never tell. the
Full
whole
story.
story.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty negligent. Yeah.
Yeah.
People go through taking drugs and things, and it doesn't fix the problem.
No,
It's
no,
a
it doesn't.
it can in extreme cases I can understand people taking a drug just to get them over the hump, but not to
Mm,
keep taking them, but to
right.
change what's actually caused the problem in the first place.
Right.
That's the key, that's the answer. And that's where they need to seek the right advice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
how does it make you feel when you help these people in jail and in the therapy sessions at
Oh,
AA?
yes. Mm-hmm. Oh,
How do you
definitely.
feel?
I feel like I found my place and that I'm useful. And it's really, it is so helped me so much because it keeps me engaged in my daily activities. I have a lot of other things going on, but these are very important points in my life, my Mondays at the jail and my Wednesdays at the treatment center, because they help remind me, you know what, Martha, where's the fun in that? These people are all suffering terribly because of what? Because of something society told them was a good time. A lot of them relapse because they think, especially the young ones, they think that they're not partying. They're missing out on a good time, and
Yeah.
you know what I tell them? I say, you know what? You're going to try to quit. You're going to quit, but there are people in your life who, not because they're malicious, but if you quit, that means maybe they have to quit and they're not ready. So they're going to try to drag you back down. We call it crabs in a bucket.
Mm.
Those crabs in the bucket aren't going to let the one get out. So whether it's stop smoking, um, losing weight, going on an exercise program, not drinking, there's always somebody in your circle who's threatened. Now they don't, a lot of times they don't know it consciously. They don't mean to be
Mm.
to try to ruin your results. But if you can do, because they see, oh, if she could do it, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then it's, oh, here, you can have a piece of cake. Oh, one cigarette won't hurt. Oh, oh, try this vape. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But it's about choosing your circle of friends. Show me your
Mhm.
friends and I'll show you who you are. And if
Well,
you
that's for
want to get out of the mess you're in, you need to choose a circle of friends that are going to be supportive, that are going to
that's
be
right.
good for you, are going to be positive, so that you can be the same.
That's
Yeah.
right. And you know what? Stop being a beggar and just looking for somebody who likes you. Why don't you look for people that you like, that you admire,
And
that you
become one of
respect?
them and
That's
become
right.
one. That's
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Raise them up.
Yeah.
Help the people up, not pull
Uh-huh.
them down. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on to my show today, Martha. I could talk for hours about all this stuff. Obviously,
It's
you
been,
can too.
yeah.
You've got a
Yeah.
ton of stories, but we'll call it quits there today. I've
Okay.
really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for coming on to
Same
my
here.
show.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay, and I will put your contact details into the description. All right, at the end when I load it up on YouTube onto my
Okay.
podcast. Yeah. Thank you very much, Martha. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Kristine. You too. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Oh, wait a sec. I don't want to do that. I just want to stop.